'Tis the season to be grateful for Tubi, so let's do another Tubi recommendations list. The first movie I'm going to recommend is The Coffee Table. Now, this movie blew up on TikTok earlier this year for being really disturbing and shocking, nothing like what you would expect, and I would agree with all of that. The story is about a family who buy a coffee table and then things go horribly wrong. I don't want to say too much about this movie, but just know that it deals with some heavy subject matter, and the focus is on a father who does something horrible and then kind of tries to hide what he did throughout the rest of the movie. It's just very uncomfortable, it's very unsettling. The anxiety that built in me watching this, because you just want to scream at him to do something right, but he just keeps doing the wrong thing and it just keeps getting worse. It's horrifying. I would look into trigger warnings if you are sensitive to things that have to do with children. This is there's a major plot point involving a child in this. It's very disturbing, and it's also interesting because this is labeled as a comedy as well. I think if you look at it as, oh, it's just kind of ridiculous how horrible this keeps getting, then yeah, it's kind of funny, but it's also really disturbing. Let me know if you've checked this one out yet. You can also catch Mike Flanagan's Hush on Tubi. This was previously on Netflix before they removed it, and it wasn't available to stream anywhere. This is a movie about a deaf writer who is staying in a secluded cabin, and one night a masked killer shows up and starts stalking her. It stars Katie Siegel. She's fantastic. It's a Mike Flanagan movie, so you know that it's good. The characters are good, the setting and vibe is great, and I like that it plays with the main character's deafness and how she kind of uses that to her advantage in this situation, which you would think it would be a disadvantage for not being able to hear the killer, but it's just so well done. It's very tense and really good. So, also, Katie Siegel's character is writing Midnight Mass, which would go on to become the best Mike Flanagan series to date, I think. You can also check out 11/22/63, which is a Stephen King miniseries that's based on his novel of the same name. This was previously on Hulu, and then they took it off. This is one of the best Stephen King adaptations there are. I did a full guide last year of my ranking of Stephen King adaptations, and this was high on the list. This is about a teacher who discovers that he can travel back to 1963, and he sets out to stop the JFK assassination. And the story follows him as he makes different relationships along the way, and he slowly realizes that whenever he tries to change something in the past, it affects the future, and things often go wrong. This is just so emotional. It has some really dark moments, amazing characters, and a beautiful love story. I cannot watch this without crying. Like, you will be sobbing by the end of this. Howard's Mill is a found footage mockumentary about a man whose wife has gone missing on a piece of land in Tennessee called Howard's Mill, and as he's digging deeper into her disappearance, he discovers that other people have disappeared in a similar way. So the documentary looks at the previous disappearances that have happened, and what seems like a straightforward missing persons case turns into something incredibly bigger. This is so well done. It feels so authentic. They speak to various people in the community, different authorities, historians, and they all just feel like actual people. None of them feel like they're acting, and it made me forget that I was watching a fictional film. Like, I thought I was watching an actual documentary, and the way that the story and mystery unfolds is really cool and creepy. It was just really impressive what they were able to do with so little. If you like films like Savage Land, which is another Tubi recommendation you need to watch, this is like that, and I think if you like that vibe, you'll love this one. It's very simple, subtle, quiet moments of horror, not really in your face jump scares, but it's done so well, and more people need to talk about it. The Atticus Institute is another found footage horror that was a nice surprise. This is about a doctor who creates this institute where he basically studies people with supernatural and paranormal abilities, and one day a woman brings in her sister who's experiencing strange possession-like symptoms, and they begin to study her, and then the government comes in and they start to study her and experiment on her and realize that they can try to use this possession to their advantage, and they're trying to weaponize it, and it goes horribly wrong. I like the commentary on what the government will do to people for their greater good. It's really dark and disturbing, and it was just a unique possession story that I haven't seen told in this way before, and it was really well done. Next up is Invasion, which is another found footage style horror movie. This one is told completely through a dash cam. This was years before dash cam. This one is about a small town that begins experiencing strange activity after meteors start crashing in the town, and it soon becomes clear that there is an alien invasion on their hands and people start getting infected like zombies. So we follow this cop as he checks out on one of the scenes, and then it just spirals from there. I think that it's not as strong as it could be, but I love the concept, and the beginning is so strong. I think it kind of drags a little bit, but I was super impressed by this idea. I love anything that's like dash cam where you're seeing someone driving around, and they use this small space very effectively, I think, and I was just impressed. I think it's really good and worth watching if you like found footage horror movies and if you have patience. Blair Witch from 2016 is set on a young man who sets out with a group of his friends into the Black Hills Forest in Maryland to find out what happened to his missing sister, who is Heather from the first Blair Witch movie. I haven't watched this in years, so I'm excited that I can revisit it on Tubi. This one wasn't bad, it just doesn't have the same experience as the original. Like, the original is so nostalgic to me and it doesn't have that same charm, but it is cool how they kind of expanded on the story, and it's a pretty decent found footage horror movie. We Go On is a 2016 horror movie about a man who offers up $30,000 to anyone who can prove to him that an afterlife exists. And so we follow him on his journey as he meets with different people who've claimed to have proof of paranormal activity and the afterlife, and he eventually meets somebody who changes his life forever. I think that this movie is really cool. I love the concept. It's very low budget. It's from the same team behind Yellow Brick Road, which is also a little weird, and I love the relationship between our protagonist and his mother, who follows him along his journey, and getting to see the different people who claim to have this proof is also really cool. I think that it kind of changes direction the second half of the movie. It's still interesting, it's just not exactly what I wanted the story to be, but I like what they did. Like, it was still cool and creative and a new take on the paranormal, supernatural horror story. The Veil is a horror movie about a priest who has an encounter with a woman on the side of the road when he's younger, and it's always kind of haunted him throughout his life. And years later, an Amish woman shows up outside his property after a meteor shower happens, and he lets her inside to help, and things get weird from there. This one is beautifully shot. There's this green hue over every shot, and it's just so stunning. It's so gorgeous, and they use the space of this farmhouse that this priest is living in very well, and it's just weird. The relationship between the priest and this woman, it just feels like they know each other, and she tells him about her abusive past, what she's running from, and he's desperately trying to help her, and she's questioning if he's actually good or not. It was just really interesting to see them go back and forth, and you don't know who's good or what's happening. It kind of is a little trippy, and I thought it had a really great ending. It's very weird. It's not completely straightforward. It's a little ambiguous, so you don't get everything answered, but I liked that. I thought it had great performances as well. It's worth checking out. And lastly, we have the folk horror Thine Heirs Shall Bleed. This is a very low budget indie horror movie about a family who are traveling and their horse and carriage breaks down in the middle of the woods, and they start to experience strange sounds, and they think it's God talking to them, but it might be something more sinister. This is a slow burn, but it has some really cool moments. The cast is really good, and it's just really impressive for a low budget movie. I think if you like folk horror movies, you should really check this one out because it will be right up your alley. But yeah, it's not over the top, ginormous, in your face scares. It's more of quiet, subtle horror movie. And there you have it. Those are some horror movies you can check out on Tubi right now. Let me know what movies you're excited to check out first, if you've watched any of the movies that I recommended, what your thoughts are, and let me know if you have any more recommendations on Tubi, because Tubi is my favorite place to be. I'm also working on a underrated holiday horror movie list coming soon. I'm just still watching the movies that I want to talk about, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving and a happy holiday season, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.